All right, so if you're connected in any way to the Pennsylvania State Education Association, maybe you're a teacher, support staff, higher ed, even a retired educator,
Yeah.
this is for you. We're going deep on a data security thing, a big one that's hit a lot of folks in that community.
Yeah, a lot of folks were talking a major data breach at PSEA. And, it's the biggest public sector union in Pennsylvania, so that's a lot of lives touched, over 178,000 members and all the people connected to them. Huge. So if you're anywhere near that world, just the scale of this thing is like, whoa, over 500,000 people, 517,487 to be exact, got those notification letters. Our aim here is to really get what happened, what info's out there, what it means for you, and for data security in general.
It's a serious wake-up call for all of us, in this digital age, about how exposed we can be. If you get what went down with this PSEA breach, it could really help you protect yourself, too.
Before we jump into the nitty-gritty, though, just want to mention this deep dive is brought to you by Stonefly. They're top of the line when it comes to enterprise storage, backup, disaster recovery, AI storage, cloud solutions, the whole shebang. So if you're after that secure ransomware-proof storage for your organization, Stonefly's got you covered with air-gapped and immutable storage. Hit up sales at stonefly.com to set up a demo and find out more.
Okay, so this thing went down over quite a while, actually, which means a long time in limbo if you were caught up in it.
Mm-hmm.
The first security incident, the actual hit on PSEA systems, that was on or about July 6, 2024. But then it took ages for everything to come out right.
Oh, yeah. If you got one of those notification letters, you'll know it was way later. PSEA, they wrapped up their investigation like a really deep dive into all that data that was messed with on February 18, 2025. So July to the next February, that's what? Over 7 months of digging to nail down exactly what was compromised. Might seem like forever, but that kind of thoroughness, that's what you need to really grasp the scope, the kind of stuff exposed,
Yeah. And while they were figuring all that out, there was also a public claim, someone saying they did it right.
Right. Rhysida ransomware gang, they popped up, said, yep, we're behind this. On September 9, 2024, a couple months after the initial hit, they even went and blabbed about it on their dark web leak site. These are these hidden online spots where these gangs, they like to dump data from victims who don't pay up. And they were asking for how much? 20 Bitcoin?
20 Bitcoin. That's a lot of dough.
Yeah.
So Rhysida's out there bragging, but PSEA themselves, they never officially pointed the finger. But the timing adds up. What happened with that ransom did they pay?
PSEA's kept mum on whether they coughed up the dough. But here's the thing. Rhysida later scrubbed the PSEA entry from their little leak site. Now, this does happen a lot if a ransom gets paid, but it's not the only reason. Could be other stuff going on behind the scenes. But yeah, a successful ransom payout, that's definitely on the table.
And for those folks who got hit, whose social security numbers were in the mix, there's a date you got to keep in mind, right?
Big time. If your social security number got swept up in this mess, PSEA is offering free credit monitoring and identity restoration. It's through a company called IDX. But here's the catch deadline. To sign up for that is June 17, 2025. So if you got that letter saying your social security number's out there, got to act fast, get signed up before that date if you want to use these free protections.
Right. So now you've got a handle on when this all went down, when you'd heard about it. But the big question for you is, what exactly did they steal?
Yeah.
Those letters, they probably had some specifics, but let's break down the types of data that could be out there just so you have the full picture.
That's the million-dollar question, right? And like PSEA said, what they snagged, it's different for everyone. Not everybody's missing every single type of data. It depends on what PSEA had on file for you.
Makes sense. How involved you were with PSEA, what info you gave them over time, that's what they had on you. Yeah. But can you give us the rundown, the kinds of personal stuff, financial stuff, health data that could have been exposed so folks know what they're dealing with?
Absolutely. And it's a pretty broad list, some sensitive stuff in there. Your driver's license or state ID that could be out there. And the big one, social security numbers, we all know how bad that is, can lead to straight up identity theft. For some folks, those were at risk. Then you got account, PIN, security codes, payment card info. If that stuff's in the wrong hands, your finances are in deep trouble.
That's already a lot to worry about. But there's more, isn't there?
Yeah, sadly. Your passport info, taxpayer ID numbers, all sorts of credentials, usernames, passwords you use for PSEA stuff online, all that was vulnerable too. And maybe the scariest part for a lot of people, health insurance and medical records could be out there. That's a whole other level of messed up. Your health data out in the open, that's ripe for scams, could even mess with your health care down the line.
That's a really clear and frankly scary picture of what was up for grabs. Not just like your name and address, we're talking your whole identity, your money, even your private health details.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the guys who said they did it, Rhysida ransomware. They've been busy, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, they've been making the rounds. Rhysida is what they call ransomware-as-a-service. Think of it
Hmm.
like a franchise for malware. They supply the tools, the whole setup to these affiliates who then go and do the dirty work. Rhysida itself popped up around May 2023, so they've been at it for almost 2 years now, and they've built up quite the reputation. Not a good one.
Not a good one, is putting it lightly. What kind of attacks have they been linked to? What makes them so infamous?
Some big ones, some real headline grabbers. They hit the British Library, remember that? Caused major disruption. People couldn't access collections and all that. Then they went after the Chilean army. Not a good look from a national security standpoint.
Yeah, these are serious targets, not some small-time operation.
Exactly. And maybe their most famous stunt was against Insomniac Games.
Yeah.
Big video game developer, part of Sony. Insomniac apparently said no to their $2 million ransom demand, so what did Rhysida do? Dumped a ton of their data, like 1.67 terabytes, sensitive company stuff, even early versions of their game's unreleased stuff. That was a message, all right, don't mess with us or this is what happens.
Yeah, that's a real-world example of what these ransomware attacks can do. It's not just the initial chaos. It's the threat of having your secrets aired out. Can have lasting damage for the victim. And then like we're seeing with PSEA, for the individuals whose info's been exposed.
That's it, exactly. And it's not just corporations and governments they go after either. Back in February last year, 2024, Rhysida affiliates, they claimed they were behind the attack on Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago. Big deal, Children's Hospital, well respected. And they even tried to sell the stolen data for a ton of Bitcoin.
The Children's Hospital. I mean, that just shows you how ruthless these guys are. And this PSEA thing, it's not a one-off for Rhysida's, is it? There's a pattern here.
There is, yeah, a worrying one. Just a few months before PSEA got hit, August 2023, Singing River Health System, they reported almost 900,000 people's data stolen in a Rhysida ransomware attack. And right around the same time as PSEA, July 2024, the city of Columbus, Ohio, they had to tell 500,000 people about a data breach. Guess who? Rhysida again.
So they're going after big organizations, places, with tons of personal data, impacting hundreds of thousands of people, even millions. This isn't random. It's like a strategy.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you got to know, the big cybersecurity guys, CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, FBI, they've all put out warnings about Rhysida affiliates, saying they're involved in loads of attacks, all sorts of industries. And the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, they've even linked them to attacks on healthcare specifically. So that medical info of yours, it's definitely in their sights.
So Rhysida is not just some small-time hacker. It's a whole organized, dangerous ransomware operation. They said they hit PSEA. And even though PSEA hasn't said, yeah, it was them looking at their history, the timing, it all adds up.
No doubt. And then they went and deleted PSEA from their leak site after claiming the attack. Like we said before, that could mean something was worked out, some deal made, though we don't know the details.
Got to take a quick pause here to thank our sponsor. This deep dive is brought to you by Stonefly. If you're worried about ransomware and all these other cyber threats, Stonefly's got your back with their air-gapped and immutable storage solutions. It's the real deal for protecting your data. Want to learn more? Hit up sales@stonefly.com to set up a demo. So for those of you who got those notification letters whose data's out there, what should you be doing right now to protect yourselves?
PSEA's recommendations, they're pretty much what any cybersecurity expert would tell you after a big breach like this. First things first, watch your bank accounts, your credit card statements, like a hawk. Any transactions, anything you don't recognize, flag it.
Yeah, that's the basics for everyone. Keep an eye on your money.
For sure. PSEA also says get your free credit report from all 3 credit bureaus. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Go through those reports line by line. Look for accounts inquiries, things you don't remember. Could be a sign someone's messing with your identity.
And beyond just watching what's already happened, what can you do to make it harder for these criminals to use your info?
Think about putting fraud alerts or even security freezes on your credit reports. A fraud alert, it's like a big red flag on your credit report, tells creditors, hey, double check this person's ID before you open any new accounts or give them credit. A security freeze, that's even stricter. It basically locks down your credit report, makes it way harder for identity thieves to open accounts in your name. You'll have to lift the freeze temporarily if you need to apply for credit yourself. Gotta weigh your options, figure out what works for you.
And like we mentioned earlier, there's a specific offer for those whose social security numbers got caught up in this.
Yeah, if that's you, PSEA is giving you free credit monitoring and identity restoration through IDX. But don't forget, deadline's June 17, 2025. If your letter said your social security number is compromised, really think about using this free service. Make sure you sign up before the deadline. It's an extra layer of protection, can help you get back on your feet if your identity gets stolen.
Sounds like a must-have for anyone who's at high risk of identity theft. Really shows you got to read those letters carefully and do what they say and do it fast.
Absolutely. Data breaches, they're becoming more and more common. And while the companies that have our data, they have a big responsibility to keep it safe, we got to be proactive too,
Yeah.
especially after something like this.
Right. So quick recap of what we talked about. We looked at this huge data breach affecting over 500,000 people connected to the Pennsylvania State Education Association. Really sensitive stuff. Personal financial health data potentially stolen after a security incident in July 2024. Rhysida ransomware gang, they say they did it. PSEA hasn't confirmed if they paid the ransom, but Rhysida did take PSEA off their dark web leak site. If you were affected, key things to do: watch your accounts, get your credit reports, think about fraud alerts or security freezes. And if your social security number was part of it, June 17, 2025, that's the deadline to sign up for those free credit monitoring and identity restoration services they're offering.
Yeah, you nailed it. Really shows how big these cyber attacks can be and how important it is for you, the individual, to know what's going on and take steps to protect yourself.
And with these attacks happening more and more and getting more sophisticated, it makes you think about what it means for data security everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What can we do, individuals and organizations, to stop this stuff from happening in the first place? And if it does happen, how do we minimize the damage? Shows you how connected everything is online. A breach at one place can have a domino effect on all of us.
It really does. It's a constant challenge, this whole cybersecurity thing. We want the convenience of the digital world, but there are real risks that come with putting so much of our info online. Got to stay informed, understand the threats, take precautions. It's all part of navigating this new world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed about your own data security.